My great-grandfather homesteaded in the late 1800s, and my grandfather took over after him, and my father after him, and me. So there's been 4 generations of a family that have farmed the land, and that's all that's actually really done the seeding on this land, and now Farm Rescue is I guess a 5th generation. Last fall, during harvest, I started to become fatigued, and to the point where when I was working on machinery, I would have to go in the shop and lay down for an hour or so and just rest up, and which is not normal. You get tired and you work through it, but this seemed more than that. And about the same time, I started passing blood, and I knew that something is wrong here. And at first went through the normal channels and checking out what it could be, and finally they decided to do a colonoscopy, and that was in November. And they did a colonoscopy and found a cancerous polyp. And within the next day, I was in the hospital being prepped for surgery and had colon resection surgery. And I went through some hurdles after that. I had an ileus, and then I also had a leak in where they connected the colon together, and ended up with infection and had to have a drain tube installed. And this kind of perpetuated everything. It put everything off. I thought, you know, if I can get into treatments and I can get ahead of this deal, maybe I'll be able to, you know, go through Springs work. But everything, the treatments got put off, and it became, once Springs work started, I realized after going through about 4 treatments that this was probably a little more than I could tackle myself.
After maybe the 3rd day of seeding, and he was into maybe his 4th or 5th treatment. And he came home, he was literally beat, and I could tell he was very stressed. And I thought at that point, he came in, sat down on the couch, and he said, "I don't think I'm gonna be able to do this." And at that point, I knew I had to do something. And so right the next morning, I emailed Farm Rescue, and I explained the situation to them. I knew they had to be in their season as far as planting goes and the application process and all that, but I thought I needed to do something and try something. So I emailed them, and Rita replied to me, I bet you within an hour. And she said, by all means, submit your application, try it and go for it. And they might be in the area, so we still could fit you in. I printed everything out, and actually once we got started doing it, the financial statements and stuff had been done for the year already, so that wasn't a big deal. He had to go in for blood work the very next day, and he stopped at the FSA office and got that printout. That was not a big deal. And as far as, I think we had to have a medical reason also, we had all that, so that wasn't a problem. So really the application process was pretty easy once a person sits down and looks at it and not as overwhelmed by what they're asking. And once I submitted that the very next day, I think, I faxed everything, and I bet you within an hour or 2, Bill Gross called me and said, "Hey, we got your application, it looks positive, we think we can handle fitting you in," and it was a piece of cake from there. They made it very easy.
As a farmer, you have a certain amount of pride and stubbornness, being pig-headed, that I can do it myself, and I'll find a way. I've always found a way, despite what challenges face you. I'll find a way to do it. But I think it's part of being a man to realize when you're licked and when you have to ask for help.
And sure, it was humbling, but also after meeting them and going through it, it's an amazing experience. They didn't make us feel like a charity case or anything like that. They were family, and it was like my brother or sister or brother, whoever, coming over and helping. it was incredible, and I definitely would encourage anyone and everyone to apply if they need to.
Put that pride aside and ask for their help, because they're just such amazing people. In the end, you'll be very happy you did. The community in which we live really stepped up and provided an apartment for them to stay in. People from the community brought food for them to feed them, and you can't go through something like this alone, and the community is part of that, and I'm so thankful for the community in which we live.
It felt like family when they were staying here. It was it was just crazy. I think by the time Bill left, I mean, I think we're in the living room when he was saying goodbye, and we just let him walk out the door like we would one of our kids. We didn't walk him to the door and say, shake his hand and say goodbye. He just, yeah, we'll see ya.
Like my wife said, the volunteers are amazing people. You know, this may sound corny, I guess I don't care, but I always believed in angels. And I felt when you passed on, there's a certain people are picked to come back to earth as angels. And after going through this process, I came into the realization that I think there's angels that live among us on earth right now. And I consider those volunteers that work for Farm Rescue to be angels among us. And that extends to the sponsors, because no matter how much volunteer help that you have, you need the equipment to do the work, and you need the funds available to support that equipment. So the volunteers, but the sponsors like RDO Equipment, who, be involved in farming, I know what machinery costs, and to supply the equipment to do the job is as important as the people that are doing it. And I have a tremendous amount of respect and heartfelt thanks to all the sponsors.
And I also think that the Farm Rescue organization takes pride in all those sponsors, because look at any of their one pickups that they're driving, they're covered with the stickers, the emblems of all these organizations that are sponsoring them. And the sponsors can be proud to sponsor them because of how they handle themselves on all these different farms, meaning all these different families, farms, their situations they're in. It's just amazing.
Part of farming is equipment maintenance, and when it's time to grease, they stop and grease. When they're done, everything is power washed and cleaned off before they head to the next Farm Rescue recipient. So the equipment is taken very well cared for, I guess.
You can see that how much they appreciate the sponsors like RDO letting them use this machinery. I mean, the care that they take and the maintenance that they continue servicing these, I mean, you see it.
And they have pride in their
Yeah.
pride in the work that they do and in the equipment they use.
Yes.
I farmed for over 20 years, and while they were here, they worked as hard as I ever worked on my farm. I mean, they went 24 hours a day, did it in shifts. One guy would sleep at night and one guy would sleep at day, and they kept the equipment rolling and professional in what they did. And I can't say enough about the whole organization. It's the most influential and awe-inspiring volunteer organization I've ever been involved with.